Hello, this is Jeff Stein of Americans in France, and I'm going to talk about the 75% tax rate. It was proposed by Francois Hollande. He's been recently elected president of France, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit and say why it might not be a bad idea. Let's talk about a little bit the background here. So France has now, I guess it's going to change. It has a 50% tax limit. In other words, you can only pay 50% tax on your income. I believe it's on income, and I believe that doesn't include capital gains. France, like America, the capital gains taxes are much lower than income taxes. So I think that this is one thing Sarkozy had. Sarkozy was the former, well, soon to be former president. He had put this in place when he first came to power. That said the 50% tax so that people that wouldn't pay more than 50% of their income in taxes. He was criticized a lot for it, certainly when the recession hit and France's debt exploded. It was why can't the rich pay, which is kind of where the 75% tax is coming from. I think it's also worth noting that Holland was against it at one time. In fact, during when he was campaigning, before he was before he came out, or his campaign came out before, he was actually against it, or he had said he was against it. So he's either a flip flopper or someone who is able to evolve and change as the circumstances warrant. So it was a campaign promise. It was something that came out in the campaign, and it was not part of the 60 points Holland had. When he came out, when he was the president, when he was the candidate, he came out with 60 points. Basically, he had 60 points he's wanted to do, 60 things, and the 75% tax was not one of them. So it was something that was kind of improvised during the campaign. I think it was more of a political um, gambit, if you will, to kind of make Sarkozy look to be a friend of the rich. Holland said he didn't like rich people, and so Sarkozy had a 50% tax limit, so rich people, which obviously helped people that were rich. So um, he came out with that during the campaign, and I think it's also just to say what it is. It's income over 1 million euros. In other words, it's not going to be 75% tax rate on all income, and I think it's also good to point out it is income. It's not capital gains. The capital gains rate will probably be raised. But it's right now we're talking about income over 1 million euros. So if you make 1,100,000 euros, that 100,000 will be taxed at 75%. But I also think it's worth pointing out that there are a lot of deductions you can take. So somebody's going to have to make more than 1 million euros to hit this level, and I think we're talking about figures 10,000 taxpayers, 20,000. It's probably not. It's not going to bring a lot of money into the coffers of the state, and I think that's the next point. Is that why it might not be bad? It's going to be a symbolic. So it's a symbolic gesture. France already has very high taxes, so 75%. It's not really. It's more. I saw one figure that's saying it would probably raise the average tax rate might go from 35% to 45%, or 35% to 40%, or something like that. So overall, we're not talking about tons of money. But I'm not saying I necessarily think it's the greatest idea in the world. I'm just saying this is why it might not be a bad idea. And I think it's symbolic. All right, so you could have rich people paying more taxes, and it makes this is the second thing. It makes budget cuts easier, and I think that is one thing that cannot be discounted. And I think it's very very important. Is that you see in Greece, you see in some other countries that people don't mind. They realize that there's a recession on. They realize there's a lot of debt. They realize that the government has to cut back, but there is a sense that not everybody is doing it. And I think that's why the 75% tax will be symbolic, and it will say, okay, even rich people, so it's even rich people will pay, which this is, it shows everyone pays. And I think that is very important. I think that's one of the reasons why it might not be such a bad idea. There's always The second, the people are going to leave, you're going to have this max exodus because Holland's a socialist and he wants to raise taxes, etc., etc., which probably will happen. I don't doubt that people are going to leave France. I don't doubt that people are going to leave France. That's probably going to happen. And I think this is also, it also goes in with Holland is going to give himself a 30% pay cut. Sarkozy, when he became president, raised his pay, and I think that did not go over very well. He cut taxes on the wealthy, and he raised his own pay, and I think that was what Holland is trying to do. He's trying to say, look, we're going to make wealthy people pay more taxes, and I'm going to cut my salary 30%. He's also going to cut the prime minister, everybody in the government, I believe, will be cut 30%. So it kind of will make easier down the road that it's probably French people will be more likely to accept budget cuts, or even, I don't know if I want to use the word austerity because I don't think that's an incredibly dirty word in France, but I think to cut the budget or to slow down spending, I think that this is what it is. And I think this is one of the things I've heard this analysis, and I think it could be true that it helps. It helps. 75% tax rate will help. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.